for today, oh, thank you. So for today, for our learning outcomes, we're going to be identifying teacher tools and also learner activities to enhance whole group tier 1 instruction. And I'll be giving you all time to explore some of those. And then also as important as administrators, you'll want to monitor data points so that you can start seeing those trends, seeing where students and teachers are leaning in to support using Khan Academy and Khanmigo. And then it's also as critical finding that intentional time for your staff to learn from each other, to share those best practices, because we're still fairly new in venturing into AI and better understanding how can they learn from each other of using this with their students and using it for themselves. So diving into our teacher tools, if you haven't had a chance yet, and I'll dive into the platform to show you, with Khanmigo, you'll be able to leverage a lot of tools and being able to provide context for what is going on in the classroom, what teachers are wanting to focus on. So I'm going to switch over to my account. So this is what it will look like when you first sign in as administrators. You'll get a snapshot of your data. We'll come back to this. Where I want you to go, if you're following along, is at the top, clicking on Khanmigo. We'll get to learner activities, but first we'll go to teacher tools. And so we have a number that you can choose from. 3 that I'm going to call out today, and I'll show you back on the slide, and you'll have this to reference later, is for formative assessment, we want to see where our students are at. A new or a different way that you could approach this is using the Blueget generator. For those who haven't gotten to use Blueget yet, it's a really engaging way to have students answer questions on a specific topic. So you could focus it on, example, if you're focused on Algebra 1, if we're doing quadratics, you could put in some of those problems so that students could be doing this in an engaging way in the classroom to be able to answer those questions. So that's one way that teachers can leverage these Khanmigo tools in a more innovative way and engaging way with their students. I won't demo that for just given the time that we have, but I will give you a video that you can reference and that teachers can utilize. And another tool that I want to focus on with y'all is called Make It Relevant. So a lot of y'all had mentioned, how do we make this engaging for students? This is a really great way that they can connect what they're teaching in the classroom to something that's interesting for the students. Because how often do we hear from students, like, why does this matter? When am I ever going to use that? So I'm going to demo this, our learning objective today. So I'm going to focus on, let me pull up. For the standard that I'm teaching today, it's factor a quadratic expression to reveal the zeros of the function it defines. So I could give this quadratic equations, but how can I make this relevant for students? So I'm going to pull up, let's do March Madness, given we're in the middle of it. It's getting fired up. People have their brackets going. So I'm going to hit start, and it'll work on creating some learning objectives and ways that I could introduce this in the classroom. So let's see what Khanmigo has. Use the excitement of March Madness and factoring quadratic expressions. So this one says I could do, sounds kind of like a bracket, but using quadratic expressions. I'm kind of iffy on that. We'll come back to that one. This one, okay, this one I could see. So it's integrating the concept of basketball shots to illustrate the application of quadratic functions. So the trajectory of a basketball shot is going to be like a quadratic expression. By factoring these, I could figure out where those points are. So maybe that one is a great one that I could work with my students on, because figuring out the trajectory is a quadratic expression. So this gives me some ideas as a teacher on how I could talk about this topic with my students, but in a way that's going to be more relevant and engaging for them. So being able to focus on those standards and skills I want students to work on, but bringing that relevancy to their day-to-day. I'm going to go back to the list that I have. And the last one that I want to bring up today, because I'm just going to focus on 3 teacher tools, is discussion prompts. So that's another one that we can build that engagement and foster discussion within the classroom to talk about discussion prompts. So I can click into that. And similarly, I can bring up grade level. So I'm going to do 9th grade, and I'm going to bring up that same standard that I just mentioned. So let's see how Khanmigo fares with giving me some discussion prompts so that we can engage and have that discourse in the classroom about it. So some ways I can talk about it: exploring the relationships with factoring, discussing different methods, as well as analyzing their role. So not only just having students work through a problem, but being able to have that conversation in the classroom to see, do students understand that process? Do students understand these terms? So you can have some time to also try these out. I'll switch back to the slides to show you. These are the 3 tools that we recommend that you can focus on and direct your teachers to. So 1, the Blueprint generator is a more engaging way to do a formative assessment, especially given that it's end of March. To also help build student engagement using the Make It Relevant tool to tie what teachers are teaching in the classroom, those key standards, skills that they're focused on, and bringing it to life to something that interests students in the day-to-day. And then the last one is discussion prompts. We know that it's key that students are able to discuss, have that discourse, especially for math. So that's a great one to be able to use in order to build that discussion. So I'd love for y'all, if you have your accounts open, you can try out these tools and think of, is there one that you want to focus on and guide your teachers in using? Any questions, or have y'all been able to try out these tools? Make it relevant, discussion prompts. Blueprint generator might be a bit hard to do in the time frame that we have. If you have a chance to give it a shot, and drop in the chat how it goes for y'all. I'm going to continue on. Since we've talked about the teacher tools, next we want to really anchor in on being able to support our students. And then there are going to be 2 ways that students can use Khanmigo. One is going to be in those standalone activities. We can use Tutor Me Math and Science for that support, Tutor Me Humanities. Those are going to be the 2 that I focus on. And then teachers can also assign those directly to students for that support. So I'm going to go back to my teacher dashboard. And then I'm going to go into the learner activities to try those out. As a teacher, I have access, and as an administrator, I have access to try out these learner activities. So I'm going to start off with Tutor Me Math and Science. So you can see as a student, you could go ahead on your own and get 5 practice problems, focus on what you're working on for your homework. What's going to be really key if a teacher is wanting to use this is being able to assign it to students so that they are more focused on what they want to work on. And so the teachers will provide a title, give the instructions on when they would use this. So I'm going to give another example of March Madness with quadratics. I want the students to be able to factor an expression, work on 5 practice problems. And then as a teacher, I can also preview this ahead of assigning it to my students. And so I can even try it out. So I'm ready to practice March Madness with quadratics. Specific areas. So maybe I want to focus on like finding the zeros, because that's where I'm really struggling with this. And then this is even helping me kind of think through as a tutor, getting that support and understanding this. And then I can dive into working on my 5 practice problems. So this is one way that teachers can leverage those Khanmigo assignments, and students can have that dialogue with Khanmigo to better understand their approach and work on those 5 practice problems. it'll be key to highlight with teachers when they can be using this. So for example, this might be a great opportunity if first doing it whole group where a teacher will model how to use Khanmigo and asking those questions. Because the student might just go and default and just keep saying, I don't know, I don't know. But showing students the power in being able to ask questions. If they're stuck and I don't actually know what it means to find a zero. So what does it mean? What does it mean a factor? Because maybe I'm still not really understanding what that means or tying it to what I've seen in the classroom. So being able to see like, okay, this is what it looks like to break it down or build out my expressions. And then from there, teachers can consider assigning this, for example, in their small groups, giving students that opportunity to practice that in the classroom, asking those questions and working through those problems. And again, this was tying it to the standards that I was working on. And you can see that Khanmigo was also kind of giving me those steps, but I also have to put some of that input into that. So another way that I as a teacher can leverage Khanmigo and Khan Academy, if I'm looking for the standard, I can either go through the course. So for example, I can go into the Algebra 1 course. And if I'm looking for a particular standard, I can also browse by standards to look for what I'm focused on. I'm in San Francisco, I'll focus on California, but you can also go to the Arizona state standards. And I can browse by my standards to find the particular one I want. So again, I was at Explore, browse by standards, went to my state and my particular course. So in this section, if I'm going to go down to, let me scroll, we have quite a bit. But if I wanted to assign, maybe we're focused on this standard and I want to work on features of quadratic functions with my students to better understand their understanding of it. And it's what we're working on in the classroom now. They can go ahead and work on these problems. And Khanmigo's on the side here to help me as a student. Let me toggle over to the student mode. In order to get support with this. So help me solve this, try a similar example, or why should I care about learning this? So I'm going to click on help me solve this. Give it some time. And so we'll begin to have that dialogue about it. Maybe I'm a bit stuck, not sure how to approach it. Or I could have started on the work already and gotten some feedback from Khanmigo to get help with this. So again, this is an opportunity for your tier 1 instruction, finding that standard. I'm showing math examples, but you also have science. There's also ELA standards available as well, and ELA courses to be able to help your students with that tier 1 instruction. So focusing on those skills or standards that you're working on now or that are coming up soon for your students to focus on. So giving you a few minutes to try this out. So going to explore, finding a particular course that you want to have your students work in, or that you want to direct your teachers to direct their students to. And then have that opportunity to work through that problem, getting help from Khanmigo and asking those questions. And see, Chandra had a question about the Bluekit tool, and I'm glad you were able to find that as a teacher, you can also see what the students will be able to see. We try to embed that quite a bit so that teachers, before they assign anything or before they go forward, they can see what it's going to look like for the students. So that's why it's great, as administrators, as teachers, being able to try out the student experience as well, and what it's like to ask Khanmigo those questions. So talk to your teachers about using Khanmigo. Students have been working in. Next, as administrators, it'll be key to be able to monitor that progress. So if you go to your administrator dashboard, you'll be able to see that information on your dashboard. Skills to proficient, as they level up their skills and demonstrate what they know. And I'm going to keep going down to this section about Khanmigo usage. I'll be able to see how many students are getting in, how many chats they're having. But also what will be really nice to focus on is what activities have they been using. So I'm seeing quite a few of my students are using it with an exercise, as well as Tutor Me Math and Science, as well as Tutor Me Humanities. That could be great. That might be what I've been wanting them to focus on. I can also drill in further to see that information and see which exercises or which courses they've been leveraging. So Algebra 1, 6th grade, digital SAT math. For me, I'm excited because those are the courses that I wanted my staff and students to be focused on. If you're, for example, wanting them to be working in the biology course, might be an opportunity to go and talk to those staff members to see what additional support that they need to get their students in. And so as you're looking at your data, two questions that I want y'all to be thinking of is, when are you going to be reviewing that data, or who on the team is reviewing that data? And then how are you going to share out this information? That can look like celebrating it with your teachers. If you notice that some of your teachers, students are getting in and leveraging this to be able to support in learning, or maybe it's an opportunity to also follow up with staff that might not be getting in yet and finding out what they need help with. I'm going to put those two questions up there for y'all to consider. When are you taking that time to review that data? And as a reminder, you all have district success managers who are here to support you. So feel free to reach out to me and Francis as well for that additional support of what does my data look like? Where are those highlights? Where are those opportunities that we still have? And how are you sharing that information out? You doing celebration emails? Is it going to be in staff meetings, PLCs? And we're also here to help you out with those templates if you need them, and crafting those messages. And as you're thinking of those, feel free to drop in the chat. What have you done? What are you starting to think about as you're considering these questions? And where do you still need support with this? Yep, I'm seeing Sarah would love some example templates. So Francis and I will be able to follow up with y'all with templates that y'all can use.
Absolutely.
And then next, consider, I showed the activities report. I'll go back into the dashboard soon, but you have an opportunity to also see your usage reports. And something else, another question for y'all to consider is, when will teachers have that time to share out with each other how they're using Khanmigo and where they can learn from each other? And it's still new for folks with using AI and Khanmigo. And so in order to best support each other, it's really great for them to hear, how are they using it? What's working well? So another question for y'all to consider, when are teachers going to be doing this? Again, is this PLC time? Is it going to be during principals meetings where folks can hear how folks are using these AI tools? Let me just demo real quick, going into the administrator dashboard. On the left-hand side under Khanmigo, so we're currently on the activities report to see what they've used Khanmigo for. You can then go into usage and see which classrooms have been using it. So I'll actually go, let's see, only show active students. And I can drill out into my high school and see particular classes that are using Khanmigo. I can also toggle over to the teacher tab if I want to see specific teachers. So it looks like in my demo account, these teachers haven't been using it, but hopefully you're seeing on your dashboards, teachers that have been getting in. And so they're teachers that you can talk to. Okay, and I'm seeing a few questions and comments in the chat. More formal PD at the beginning of next school year. Yep, we understand we're nearing the end of the school year. You might already have things scheduled. So we'd love to be able to have that conversation and start thinking of what does your PD schedule look like for next year so that we're set up, have a plan in place. Awesome. And then I love what Sandra's also bringing up, like training for principals as well as and instructional coaches. It's great to get those folks involved as well, so they know what data they can look at as well as how can they support their staff. Doreen, if you can send a message to Francis with your email address as well as which district you're at, so we can follow up on getting you access to the administrative reports. So for any other folks on the call, if you're a district partner or not seeing the admin reports, feel free to reach out to us so that we can follow up with your district on getting you access. So I'm excited to see folks considering PD as that support. And then it'll be important to also figure out that time for teachers to have reflection time with each other. Do you all have any questions with the learner activities that we've gone over, as well as the reports that we've just covered? Move on to our next steps for y'all to start thinking about. So we have a couple of more learning series sessions or learning workshop sessions. So we just covered how to support your grade level learning with Khanmigo. The next section will be in 2 weeks on April 10th, so supporting all learners. And the following one will be supporting summer learning. Can't believe summer is almost here. And then finally is we're at towards the end of the school year and wanting to find opportunities to be able to celebrate that student success. So make sure that those are on your calendar and that you'll be joining us for those additional learning series sessions. And a few of us are on the call today from your Khan Academy team. So I'm joined by Chelsea as well as Francis. Other folks that you may have already met or still to meet, Cheryl is our rostering specialist, so she can work with your IT folks to make sure that you have the proper folks that are rostered and getting into using Khan Academy and Khanmigo. Jennifer and India are our wonderful professional learning specialists who are happy to support your district with scheduling professional learning. So reach out to them to get that scheduled and get on the calendars. And so as we wind down, I want to make sure to finish up with a quote from our founder, Sal Khan. So as we consider this big foray that we're making, as technology plays a major role inside and outside the classroom, we want to make sure that education innovation is accessible. So as we continue to see these advancements in technology like Khanmigo, how do we continue to bring that access and those opportunities for all students? And so we at Khan Academy, by prioritizing AI in education, we are helping you all with fostering that inclusive learning. And so continue to join us in that conversation of how do we empower every learner to thrive in a rapid and evolving digital landscape. And so with that, we look forward to our next session with you all. I'm going to drop a few links in the chat for you. One is a talk that covers some of those tools that we have talked about, including a video about Blukit, and some other videos that you can see to help you with reports, understanding the learner activities. Know that we'll also follow up with y'all on some of the templates to be able to use to celebrate success and email out. I'm also including some of these asynchronous free courses that are available to you all already. These are especially focused on the courses that educators have. And then Chelsea's mentioning, if you're not currently a district partner and are interested to learn more, feel free to reach out to her. She's dropped her email address in the chat. Frances has also dropped hers. And for any of my partners that I am working with, as a reminder, I'm dropping my email in the chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. So Chelsea, if you're not currently a district partner and interested to learn more, and for our current partners, feel free to reach out to Frances and myself to talk more about those templates, talk more about your implementation, and start scheduling professional learning. I'll hang out here if you have any questions. Feel free to drop them in the chat. But thank you so much for joining us today to talk about how you can use Khanmigo to support your on grade level learning with your students.